I married Caelthis Voren Adari, third daughter of the Ashwin throne, because our two peoples needed peace. And I happened to be the human standing closest to the treaty table when someone asked for a volunteer. That is the truth, and I never pretended it was anything more. Not to her, not to her court, not even to myself, on the nights when I lay awake in a palace made of pale blue glass, listening to wind that had 17 different names in her language and none in mine. She married me because her father commanded it, and because I was, in her own words during our very first private meeting, the least threatening specimen the humans could offer without insulting us outright. I did not argue with that. I am not a large man. I do not walk like the soldiers on old recruitment posters. I like to cook. I keep a small garden. Before any of this, I taught mathematics to teenagers who did not want to learn it, and I was good at that job, and some nights in her glass palace, I missed it more than I could say. Caelthis was disappointed in me from the very first week. The Ashwind do not hide their feelings well. Their faces are built for sharp truth, not soft comfort. She watched me struggle to lift the ceremonial blade during our wedding ceremony. She watched my hands shake, trying to hold a fighting stance her 12-year-old nephew could hold in his sleep. And something in her quietly closed, like a door shutting without a sound. "You are supposed to be the strong one," she told me once, about 4 months into our marriage. She did not say it with anger. She said it the way you state a sad fact. That is how it is supposed to work. That is how it has always worked on my world. "I am strong in other ways," I said. It sounded weak, even as I said it, but it was true, and I had no better words for it that night. She did not answer. She simply looked at me the way someone looks at a pet that has disappointed them, not with anger, with a small, private sadness for what she had hoped I would be. I want to be clear about something. I never blamed her for feeling that way. She grew up on a world where strength was everything, where even their old stories said the gods judged a soul by the strength of its hands and the size of its victories. She was not being cruel. She was simply raised that way, the same way I was raised to smile at strangers and hold doors open for people I would never see again. I let her believe what she believed. It felt easier than explaining myself to a woman who still flinched a little when I touched her shoulder, as if she were bracing for something too gentle to matter. 2 years passed like that. We were not unhappy. We built something quiet and real in the spaces around her disappointment. She taught me the 17 names for wind. I taught her chess, and she beat me every single time, and I let her believe it was because she was clever, and not because my mind was often somewhere else, thinking about other things I could not explain to her. Then, one evening, everything changed. Strange ships appeared above Ashwin's third moon. Caelthis's people called the beings inside them God-shaped, and they did not mean it kindly. These visitors did not send friendly messages. Instead, they wrote a warning across the night sky itself, so bright that everyone on the planet could see it from their windows: bow down, or face great trouble. The royal court did what frightened, proud people often do. They argued, they postured, they tried to look strong in front of each other. Caelthis's father called his most trusted advisors together to plan, and I was not invited, because I was only the human husband, the quiet one who cooked dinner and lost at chess. That night, he came to our room, and for the first time in 2 years, she did not look at me with disappointment. She looked at me with something worse, pity that was about to become grief. "I don't know a gentle way to say this," she said quietly, "so I won't try to find one. My father believes it may be safer if you are not here when the visitors arrive. He believes you should go home." "You're trying to send me away," I said. "I'm trying to keep you safe," she said, and her voice broke on the last word. In that moment, I understood something important. Somewhere in those 2 quiet years, without either of us noticing, she had stopped seeing me as a disappointment. She had started seeing me as someone she did not want to lose. It had simply taken a crisis for her to say it out loud. I took her hands. They were shaking. Mine were not. "I need you to trust me for the next 6 hours," I said gently. "I need you to not ask me any questions. And I need you to keep your father from making any big decisions during that time." She stared at me, confused. "Why?" "Because I need to make a call I haven't made in 11 years, I said. And I was hoping I would never have to make it again. I will not spend much time explaining who I used to be, because it is not the interesting part of this story, and because some parts I am simply not free to share, even now. What I can tell you is this: before I taught mathematics to bored teenagers, I did other kinds of work. Quiet work. Work meant to end conflicts before they truly began. That kind of work meant knowing certain people, not politicians, not generals giving speeches, just a small, careful group of people who kept watch over the kinds of dangers that even proud, powerful worlds had learned to fear. The visitors above Ashwind were not unknown to us. My people simply had chosen, for many years, to quietly let others avoid having to face them. I made my call. I will not say who answered it. I will only say that 6 hours later, when the strange fleet began moving down toward Kael'thas's homeworld, to make a frightening example of it, they found something new waiting for them in orbit. Something that did not need to write warnings across the sky, because it did not need to prove anything. It simply switched off 11 of their ships, not destroyed, just powered down, the way you might unplug a machine, and left them drifting silently and harmlessly past the horizon. It was meant as a clear message, not a tragedy. That has never been the point. Ending danger quietly, without unnecessary harm, has always been the better way, whenever it is possible. And it is almost always possible, if you are patient enough, and careful enough, to make patience worthwhile. Within the hour, the visiting commander asked to speak with someone, not with Kael'thas's father, the king, with me. I stood on the palace balcony beside Kael'thas, who had not asked me a single question during those 6 hours, despite every instinct clearly telling her to. Together we watched as a being her people called God-shaped, spoke with careful, unfamiliar respect. It was the voice of something that had just quietly rebuilt every assumption it held about the universe, and did not like what it found. They asked, politely, that we not repeat what had just happened. I told them we would not have to, if they simply left in peace. I meant every word. They left soon after. Quietly ending a dangerous moment, without further cost to anyone, has always been the true goal. Loud shows of power were never the point. The point has always been making sure no one else gets hurt. Kael'thas did not speak to me for a long while after that. She stood very still, staring at the empty sky where the ships had been. When she finally turned to face me, her expression had changed into something I had never seen there before. Not disappointment, not pity. Something closer to a quiet, confused question, aimed at a man she had shared a home with for 2 years, yet somehow had never truly known. "You let me believe you were weak," she said softly. "I let you see what your whole life had trained you to look for," I answered gently. "I was never going to win an argument against years of your training. I hoped I would never have to try." 2 years, she said. 2 years. I felt sorry for you." "I know." "I told my sisters I had married a soft, gentle man," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "I told them I loved you, and despite that. You did love me despite that," I said. "And that is the part I never wanted to take away from you. I did not marry you hoping to be feared, Kael. I had already known enough of that feeling before I ever met you. For once, I only wanted to be the man who lost at chess, who grew disappointing tomatoes, and who made you laugh at breakfast. I got 2 peaceful years of exactly that, simply because you believed I was ordinary. That was never a lie I told you. It was a quiet gift you gave me, without ever knowing it." She stayed silent for a long moment, then she laughed, a small, surprised, slightly frustrated sound, and said, "You truly are the strangest person I have ever known." "I have been told that before," I said, smiling. She never asked me to become that other version of myself again, the quiet, powerful one who could calmly stop warships without raising his voice. Instead, she let me return happily to my bad tomatoes, and even worse, chess games, because she finally understood something important. The strength itself had never been the real point of who I was, choosing gently not to use it, until the single moment when there was truly no other choice left. That had always been the honest truth about me, and somehow, her people's old stories about strength and worth seemed to understand that better than her father's entire council of advisors ever had. Even now, people in the Ashwind court still tell the story of the night the gods themselves quietly bowed before a human. I have never once corrected them. It is not exactly right, of course, but it is close enough to the truth that I let it stay that way. And Kael'thas, who knows exactly how close it really is, always smiles gently whenever someone tells that story. She never says a single word to correct it either. She simply looks at me across the room, and I look back at her, and between the two of us, that quiet smile says everything the story never quite manages to explain. Sometimes, late at night, she still asks me questions about those years before we met. Careful questions, gentle ones, as if she is slowly learning a second version of the same man she married. I answer what I can. Some things, even now, I keep to myself, not because I do not trust her, but because certain quiet promises are meant to stay quiet, no matter how much time passes. What matters most to me is not the story people tell in the court, or the legend that grows a little taller every year it gets repeated. What matters is much smaller than that. It is the way she still beats me at chess, every single time, and still believes, even now, that it is only because she is clever. I never correct that either.